Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Cece Bell, and today we have yet another deep dive into the book El Deafo. So it's been a week since you saw me last, and if you were paying attention, you noticed that I had this sort of red dot right here on my forehead, which I claimed was not a zit. I stand by that claim, and I think last week I called it a tick bite, but I think maybe it was more like a mosquito bite or even a spider bite. Not is it, or is it? But there it is, it still remains. Anyway, we are just a few days from one of my favorite holidays, Thanksgiving, a time where we can reflect and be thankful and eat delicious food. And as we reflect on this, what has been a very difficult year, I hope you are able to think back on all the things and all the people you are thankful for. And I am especially thankful for all the people who made this book and all of my books possible. And I am especially thankful for all of you, my readers, and all of you who have stuck through all these videos. Very, very thankful for all of you. You make this job and making books, you make this all so worthwhile for me. And I appreciate all your kindness and your nice comments over the year. You guys are awesome. So I'm very, very thankful for you. And I'm also thankful for the friends in this book, Mike and Martha and Jenny, even Laura, all those people who were such a big part of my childhood, and some of whom, I think whom is right, some of whom are still my friends to this day. So as we talk about chapter 20, you'll see the friendship with Mike especially is a big, big part of this chapter. So Martha, we'll return to Martha in the very final chapter of the book, which will be next week. So anyway, chapter 20 begins. Chapter 20 begins on the school bus, and lots goes on, a lot of things go on a school bus. And I have a picture of a 1970s school bus. So you can see that our school buses look very, very much like your school buses today. Except I think school buses today have more of a flat front, or at least a lot of them do. But this is what our old school bus looked like. And I spent a lot of time on the school bus, and that is where all the good gossip takes place. And it's where friendships are made and friendships are destroyed. Everything happens on this school bus. And I rode the school bus all the way through elementary school, middle school, and my freshman and sophomore year of high school. But then I learned how to drive. And my cousin, whose nickname was Boozy Kirby, gave me his car when I was a junior. And it was a really cool car. It was an early 1970s Volkswagen station wagon, and I loved that car, and it made me feel like Molly Ringwald in the movie Pretty in Pink, which was a very popular 80s movie. And she had a beautiful car. I think it was a Carmen Gia that was painted pink, but it looked a little bit like my Volkswagen. And my Volkswagen was really, really loud. It sounded like an airplane driving up and down the streets. But I loved being in that little car and feeling quite the grown-up. But before I got that beautiful car, I had to ride the bus with everybody else, and that's okay. So I'm going to read this page, and here is how it goes. The next morning on the bus, I save a seat for Martha. I just know I can convince her to be friends again. But then Mike shows up. Hey, Cece, is this seat taken? How can I say no? You know what I keep thinking about? Me? Your hearing aid and that microphone. They're so cool. Cool? Wow. But does he think I'm cool too? So, I've got a plan. When Mrs. Sinkelman leaves today for quiet math, you can use your stuff to listen out for her. We can all have fun until you tell us that she's coming back. You'll be a hero. What do you say? Sure. So, what you're seeing here is someone with a big crush, me, being in love and agreeing to do something simply because I love the boy so much. Or at least I thought that was what love was. So then we go to page 212. Once I'm at school, though, I'm not so sure about Mike's big plan. I can't concentrate on anything, not even on what Mrs. Sinkelman is saying. What have I just agreed to do? And what if it doesn't work? And oh, what if I get in big trouble? Mike and the neighborhood kids think my hearing aid is cool. But what if my classmates don't think so? Will I be a hero? Or will I be humiliated? Suddenly, Mrs. Sinkelman's voice is all too clear. Class, it's time to put your art things away. Quiet math is starting soon. What? Already? Be good, everyone. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. So you can see, even though I have agreed to do this plan out of love, I'm actually quite terrified. And you see me go through all the motions of the activities of the day, the note-taking, the science experiments, the art project, and I'm not really focused on any of it. And so, what is going to happen next? And before we get into what happens next, Mike's plan and everything that happens in this chapter did really happen. The only real difference is that in the book, it's taking place in the 5th grade, and in real life, it actually took place in 3rd grade in Mrs. Eichelman's class. So it's very close to what actually happened, except for when it happened. I changed that a little bit. So page 213 begins with the tap, tap, tap of Mrs. Sinkelman's shoes. This is one of the major sounds that I could hear when Mrs. Eichelman, the real teacher, when she left our classroom, she would go tap, 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 tap up the stairs. And when she returned, there was a tap, 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 tap when she came back. There were 8 stairs that led to our basement classroom. And so that basement classroom was beautiful. And even though it was dark, because all of the windows were kind of up high, the way basement windows are, we didn't get a lot of natural light. But Mrs. Eichelman, the real teacher, was so amazing and fun. And she had all this wonderful stuff for us to look at, like her butterfly collections, all that good stuff, that it made the classroom seem very, very bright. But nonetheless, that sound was a big part of that year of school. The way her shoes sounded on those steps was very, very distinct. So anyway, she leaves the classroom. We're supposed to do quiet math, and here is what happened. I hear the tap of Mrs. Sinkelman's shoes as she goes up the stairs. Can I really do what Mike wants me to do? Okay, everybody, let's party! No way. I don't want to be a rotten spot again. Me neither. Don't worry. Me and Cece have a plan. Oh, yeah? What is it? Cece's hearing aid lets her hear Mrs. Sinkelman wherever she is in the whole building. So Cece's going to listen out for her and tell us when she's coming back. We can sneak back to our desk and Mrs. Sinkelman will never have to know. Oh, boy. What's everyone gonna think of me now? So, really, really worried. And we have 15 minutes because 5 minutes have been spent explaining the plan to everybody else. So we've got 15 minutes to go, which isn't very much, but 15 minutes can feel like an eternity. So, do your teachers leave you for 20 minutes at a time, all by yourselves? I doubt it. That is one way that times were different back in the 1970s. And I'm licking my tongue because I have little notes that I sometimes look at, and and that's such a teacher thing to do. Oh, my note. Anyway, that's why I'm licking my finger from time to time. So, moving on, page 214. And let's see. Oh, yeah, page 214. I spent so much time talking about my notes that I distracted my own self. So, I'm going to keep reading. Right, okay. What is everybody going to think of me now? And then, page 214, I wait for someone, anyone, to say something. And then suddenly, someone does. You can do that? Where is she right now? She's in the teacher's lounge. I can hear her puffing on a cigarette. This plan is totally gonna work. It's party time! But hurry, we've only got about 15 minutes. So I think, for some reason, I thought I had already read the part about 15 minutes. But Mike says 15 minutes here. So we've got 15 minutes because 5 minutes was spent talking about the plan. And then on page 215, you see me sitting there listening while everybody else is partying. This is a page that has really bothered a lot of readers because I am not part of the party. But the truth is, I was actually having a great time because I was excited to be such an important part of this plan, to be the reason the party is happening, to be the one that has this ability to do something that no one else can do. That was exciting. And the truth is, I don't even like parties that much because lip reading is really, really hard at parties. And I would much rather be the person behind the scenes helping the host or the hostess. I love being in the kitchen during parties and helping prepare the food and serving. That's way more fun to me than actually partying. So don't worry, everyone. I am perfectly happy on this page. And on this page, I am going back into an Deafo fantasy in which I go into my bubble, and then on page 216, you'll see that within the bubble, I'm looking at a computer monitor to monitor the whereabouts of Mrs. Sinkelman. So in real life, I'm actually just listening to Mrs. Eichelman, the real teacher. I'm listening and imagining where she is based on the sounds I'm getting from the microphone. Remember, that microphone can pick up everything everywhere within the school building. So, but in the El Deafo fantasy, I'm actually seeing what I imagine. And this computer monitor is based on that sort of monitor that's in a lot of old superhero shows, including Batman and Robin. And, that happens a lot where the main characters are communicating with somebody else or can see somebody else on some kind of screen or through some kind of monitor. So that's that. And what's extra important about this page is not just the monitoring of Mrs. Sinkelman's whereabouts, but what my character is actually thinking. So I'm thinking, funny, I may be inside the bubble of loneliness, but it's not so lonely anymore. It's actually kind of fun to share my superpowers. And just wait till they all find out that I can hear Mrs. Sinkelman using the potty. Ah! So this is maybe one of the most important parts or pages of this book, is finding out that it is fun and important to share the things about yourself that are different from other people, or that you think are different from other people. Because often when you start talking about this stuff and sharing this stuff, you find out that other people have had similar experiences, or maybe if they haven't had similar experiences, they're still very interested in what you can do and what makes you different. And this is a great way to make friends, just talking about the things about you that make you different and unique. It is worth sharing that stuff. So very important page here. And then moving on, on page 217, this is the page where I feel like I have won over my classmates. And you can see, for example, on panel 1, can you still hear Mrs. Sinkelman? I mean, like, where is she now? Well, she's in the bathroom. No way. That's hilarious. Hey, everybody. Cece can hear Mrs. Sinkelman using the bathroom. So, sure way to make friends and get friends and keep friends is to tell them all about your teacher using the bathroom. Guaranteed. And then in the third panel, you'll see that everybody is crowding around me and, gee, I wish I had a hearing aid too, that kind of thing. And you'll see that Jenny is sort of in the background watching, and I think this is a moment where she finally is seeing me in a different way, in a new light, because now she sees what I can do with my hearing aids, and also she sees the regular and fun interactions that I'm having with the other kids in our class. And so she's thinking about me in a new way. So this is a kind of quiet but important moment that you pick up on Jenny right there in that panel. And so everybody's laughing, having a great time, but then in the final panel of this page, tap, tap, tap. It's the sound of Mrs. Sinkelman coming back. Uh-oh. So then we go to page 218 and 219, and the fear and the suspense really build here. Will I be brave? Can I be brave? Can I be like El Deafo? So once again on these two pages, you see that El Deafo is addressing me. And the last time we saw El Deafo do that was in chapter 18, when I was trying to get up enough courage to talk to Mike Miller about what the microphone can do in the first place. That's what led to this whole plan, this whole party, with that conversation. And that was a moment where I had to be brave. And now we're here at another moment where I have to be brave as well. So El Deafo talks directly to me here, and I will read these 2 pages. This can only mean one thing. Mrs. Finkelman's coming back. And now I have to warn my classmates that she's headed our way. And here's El Deafo talking. Time is running out. It's now or never. Tell them. But I never do stuff like this. I could get in so much trouble. So what? This is your part of the plan. Your classmates need your help. Be a hero. Stand up. Shout it out. Tell them. And in this moment on page 218, something very exciting happens. El Deafo and me, we merge. We merge in that moment. And I suddenly become very, very brave. And on page 219, I stand up and shout, hey, everybody, she's coming. Go back to your seats. And if you notice, on page 218, El Deafo puts a cape on me, and that cape remains not only on page 219, but for the remainder of the chapter. Even though that couldn't possibly happen in real life, that I suddenly have a cape, it remains. It's more like the cape is in my mind. I feel like I am brave enough to be El Deafo. I'm a superhero, and I'm wearing that cape. So, it's so exciting, isn't it? Then you see on page 219, everybody runs back to their seats. And then on page 220, we get back to our seats just in time. When Mrs. Finkelman comes in, she suspects nothing. And so in that final panel, we all look at each other and sort of giggle and smile because we got away with something. We all did it. We did it, and I did it. I helped make this happen, and what an exciting moment. So just to add a little variety to the mix, I have a little bit more footage with Mike Miller from our conversation from earlier, and we talk about this moment of fooling Mrs. Eichelman in real life. So let me share that with you now. And I'll do my little thing where I pretend that I'm thinking. But I bet you were in the apple. I'm surprised you don't remember the apple. The apple was the thing that I most avoided in life. Just please don't let my name be in the apple. So, thinking about breaking the rules and shouting, she's coming back. I really thought I would end up in the apple if I was caught, but we weren't caught. And
Nope.
I didn't know. And I think we did it several times.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure we did.
I know it wasn't just once.
Yeah, right. Woohoo! And she was gone for maybe 15 or 20 minutes while we did our minutes. Yeah. And the way that I always knew she was coming back was those steps that you described. That click,
right.
Click. Her heels sounded really different on this compared to everywhere else.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. She was a good teacher, though.
She was.
Yeah.
It's weird how your memory works. What you remember, what you don't, and sometimes it just takes one little thing. Like, I do remember just going out and having recess again, going outside, running around.
We just wanted to play, right?
A good time, being outside. So I think, I do have a lot of memories from that age. It's so long ago, it really, I'm amazed at how much you remember. And I think when but when you start, I'm sure when you start writing about it and doing illustrations, the memories start coming back.
It does.
So, just reading through the book, like there was most things I remember, but I've never really focused too much on that much of detail. So it's neat. For me, it's really neat to see, like with this recollection of all of the events that happened when we
Yeah.
were kids.
Woo-hoo-hoo. So, as you noticed from that footage, we didn't do this just one time. We did this many times. And we didn't do it every single day or anything like that. But because we knew that would be too risky. But maybe once every few weeks we would say, it's time for a party. Let's do it. And so we would. And we got away with it every single time. And we never got caught. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. And part of the reason we never got caught is that I never told Mrs. Eichelman, the real teacher, I never told her that the microphone has an on-off switch. Ha, 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 ha. So, yes, it's not a good thing to fool your teachers like this. I know that to be true. But sometimes in life, you have to do the bad thing in order to do the good thing or the right thing for yourself. So nobody was really hurt when we did any of this. We were just getting away with something that we shouldn't have been doing. And it wasn't all that bad what we were doing. It still wasn't right. But sometimes you have to do things like that to be brave and just to boost yourself up. And hopefully I'm not going to get in trouble for saying any of this. But sometimes you just have to do that thing in order to become yourself and to be just to be brave and to get that boost of self-esteem you need. So anyway, those were really good times getting away with fooling Mrs. Eichelman back in 1978 in the 3rd grade. I can tell you that much. So then, the final page of this chapter, page 221, you'll see that something has changed in my relationship with Jenny. This was a pivotal moment in my relationship with her, and it's greatly exaggerated here, but eventually she did stop talking to me in that loud and slow voice of hers. And I think part of it had to do with her seeing what I could do, and just like that panel we talked about on page 217, where she's watching me interact with everybody and seeing me in a new light. So now she's talking to me more normally, and that was delightful. So, and she says, anyway, Mike told me to tell you that he was right. You're a hero. And then I think, of course I'm a hero. I am El Deafo. So this is one of the few moments in my life where I really did feel great. And I felt like I had done something fantastic. I felt like my superhero version of myself. I felt like El Deafo. And everybody can feel like a superhero. Honestly, everybody can feel that way. It's very easy. All you have to do is help somebody. Just helping another person makes you a hero. Helping them in any way, big or small. That's what makes a real hero, is being a helper. And so, this Thanksgiving, think about all the heroes who have helped you through your life, all the people who have made you a better person, and just those are the people to be thankful for, the helpers. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving, and once again, I'm very thankful for you for reading my books and sticking with me through these videos. We only have one more to go after this. which is pretty remarkable. So stay safe, everybody. Enjoy some delicious turkey and have a wonderful break. I will see you later. Bye-bye.